Ma'ams and sirs, welcome to the Jarrett Bellmund Show. We are located in our own homes to continue safe working processes. My goal is to assist you in your personal and professional growth by talking to community leaders like our guest, Mona Wade. This episode is brought to you by Pro 16 Productions. Pro 16 Productions combines experience, passion, and innovation to capture the essence of your projects. Mona Wade from Wade CPA works throughout Henderson County. Mona specializes in small business accounting and preparing and planning for personal and business taxes. Welcome to the show, Mona.
Hello, Jared. I am glad to be here with you today.
Oh, it is my pleasure to have you on the show. Thank you so much for joining us. How are things going with you? You had a lot of exciting, fun, maybe a little crazy things going on in your life. You just got married, just moved into a new home. How's it going?
It's going great. I, of course, need to unpack and get ready, but my office is set up. I'm able to work, and just things are going great. Very happy with it.
Yeah, that's great to hear. Yeah, it's amazing how we set ourselves up well to work.
Right.
You know, Jenny always tells me, she's like, whenever we move, it seems like your laptop and your work really gets set up very quickly. I'm like, well,
has to.
Yeah, priorities. So we are going to talk about really just preparing and planning for business taxes and accounting purposes, which is for some people exciting. I guess for some people they may have hesitation or don't want to handle it, but that's good because you are a professional who can handle it for them.
I am, and I also have a passion for helping small business owners, help them set up their books, help them run their business, help them to be more profitable if possible, which is usually possible. A lot of small business people do not like to work in their own books, and unfortunately that leaves them handicapped as to where they're lacking. So I like to be able to dig into the books and help them find that.
Yeah, that's a great point. And profits are good for everybody. Yes, I can say that I am one that does not like to work in my own books. You know that. So what are some things that a business owner could do maybe before calling a professional like you to be prepared to utilize a accountant or a professional tax service?
Gather the facts. And that means, where are you spending your money? If you don't have your own accounting system, bookkeeping system, gather the facts. Where are you spending the money? How do you make your money? And let's talk about that. A lot of people have one stream of income and one product per se, but some have multiples and they don't know if they're making money off of those or not. So if we can gather those facts and put them into perspective, then we can determine what needs to be pared out and what needs to be continued or focused on. We may want to focus on something that business owner is passionate about but isn't making money, and we may want to just spend our time focusing on the one item that brings in the money. Everybody is different. Every business is different. So we need to look at as many facts as we can to be able to guide those. A bookkeeping system is key to getting those facts together. And if the small business owner isn't capable or focused on that part of the business, they need to find somebody that can do that for them. A bookkeeping system is very key to being able to make more profits and to find out where you're making the profits.
Yeah, I think that's a big statement for businesses in anything they do, that they really should lean into their strengths and maybe contract out their weaknesses, which is...
Absolutely. I tell that all the time. There are so many things that people that have small businesses like you and I need to do. If the accounting side is not your strength, that you shouldn't be spending your time on it. You know,
Right.
Obviously I do, because that is my strength. But many business people have so many other things they need to focus on and are so much better at, that they need to find somebody that can help them with that bookkeeping side. If it's not me, there are other people out there that can help them. And it's worth the cost because it takes that pressure off of them. and still allows them to know what's going on in their business.
Well, and you just promised us you'd find profit for us, right? So that was.
I promise to help.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if we can narrow down where those dollars are coming in and going out, we probably can find profit. A lot of times people are spending money they're not even aware of. If you're dealing with an individual, that's easy. Write down every dime you spend, and you're going to find out that you're spending money on things you didn't even realize.
Yeah.
It really works the same way in business. I had one client that was spending all their money on inventory 9-12 months before they could sell it, and couldn't understand why they were in the red. They were carrying inventory for way too long. We need to narrow that time frame, and just by looking at the books we can see some of those things and help determine that. You don't need to be carrying somebody else's debt
Right.
for a year before you can make money on it just because they're giving you a small discount. We can give up that small discount and save the interest and the cost, the time value of money, and get that more in alignment so that you can make money off of the product that you're trying to sell. The longer you hold it, the less money you're going to make.
Yeah. And that's right. Plus it adds some liquidity to the business
Right.
for the short term. I tell my wife that all the time. I'm like, why is our pantry full? Just buy the food we're going to eat.
Because that changes daily.
Yeah. With a teenager and a 6-year-old boy. Yeah. It's
doesn't last long.
But yeah, it's a similar practice. So for a small business owner, what are some tools that they could use to organize that data that you would need?
That really depends on what kind of a system they're using. Again, if they have a system in place, we just need to clean it up. If they have no system in place, we need to find one. It can be as simple as putting all your receipts in an envelope and tallying them up on a monthly basis, using a system like Mint Money or QuickBooks for self-employed. Very simple processes that just tally all that information up for you and categorize it. Categorization of those expenses is very important because that's how we determine where the money is going and where it's being overspent possibly. I mean, you may be spending money that you think is on your product, and it may actually be for other expenses, and you won't know how much you're actually making on your product until we break those expenses down.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So categorization of your expenses is key.
So what are some categories that you would advise people to start breaking things into? What are the major groups?
Again, that depends on the type of business, but if you're selling a product, the actual cost of the product, the cost of receiving that product. So you may be paying shipping or freight on that. If you're in these days and times, you may not be selling face-to-face, you may be shipping that product out. That adds additional cost to what your product is. That's all cost of sales. Then you've got payroll expenses, you've got office expenses, you've got your utilities, rent. Those are kind of the major expenses. I mean, we have tons and tons of expenses out there, but those are the major ones that everybody has, except people who have services. They don't have cost of sales. But then you have to keep track of your time. So time, cost of sales, they're kind of the same thing. So those are the major categories. Everybody has office expenses. And a lot of times I get people come in, they go, I don't have any office expenses. Did you write a receipt? You paid for that receipt book. That's an office expense.
Right.
Did you use your cell phone? That's an expense. And they just don't forget. But I think the one that most people do not track well enough that could save lots of dollars in taxes is mileage. By not logging your mileage, you're cheating yourself out of expenses because you do not realize how many miles you drive if you're self-employed.
Yeah, that is the truth. Except the last 2 months.
Well, yeah, normal.
Yeah. It's been very easy to track the last 2 months. So as an insurance agent, I, of course, get a lot of questions where I just defer to a CPA. And one of the bigger ones is, how should I set up my entity?
That's a great question, and there's never a solid answer. The answer is always it depends. I like to tell people that we can grow your business as your business grows. We can grow the entity. If they want to start as a sole proprietor, that's fine. My suggestion would be to start as an LLC. We can apply for a federal ID number, and that LLC can grow with them. They can file as a sole proprietor. They can then grow it if they want to bring in partners. They can add partners, or if they want to file taxes as an S corporation or a regular corporation, they have that opportunity, all with the same federal ID number, which means they can keep the same bank accounts. If we change entities along the way, then you have to get a new federal ID number, change bank accounts, and it becomes a great hassle for the business owner, and they lose interest. So if
Yeah,
we start with an LLC, it's generally the most flexible of the entities.
that's a great point, right? So changing bank accounts is not a simple and easy thing.
And
And
especially if you have any automatic payments whatsoever.
right, yeah, yeah, which is a common occurrence. That's
Right.
great. So now, as far as tax liability, what would be the difference between like, when would that transition happen from a sole proprietor to an LLC, or an LLC to an S corp? Is it size? Is it revenue? Is it employees?
It can be any of those, but basically it's revenues. That would be my key point. You can start saving tax dollars at a certain point. And that's generally not until the bottom line is in the $50,000 range. Because then we can start shifting income, and the owner can start taking payroll and shifting some of that self-employment income, because at this point they're probably paying somebody else to come in and help them earn that revenue. And we can shift some of that self-employment income to distributions through the S corporation. But the LLC would be treated the same tax-wise until that point, unless they brought in a partner.
Yeah, another great reason to have a professional help you with things like that, because then
It is
they're
complicated, and there's
yeah,
lots of factors to consider.
that's without a doubt, and a lot of planning that goes into it. That, as business owners, that's not always, like we said earlier, our number one priority or focus. So having someone that knows what those thresholds are and when the next movement needs to happen is a huge benefit to a business.
Right. And I start asking questions before you've even started your business. If you come to me at that point, asking you where you want to be in the end, what is your exit strategy, and do you have a retirement plan? I want to be able to help you create the entity that will create those things for you as you grow. You won't have the funds today, but eventually you will, and we want that to be the least disruptive way to build those funds for you, for your retirement, and for the sale of your business.
Yeah, succession planning is something that a lot of businesses think is a thing to do later, when
Right.
really it's what you should be doing from day one, is figuring out, and sometimes it's multiple avenues, right? Like, I may not want to partner up, but what would be the plan if I did? I may not want to retire in the next 10 years, but what if that was? I may not want to sell, but what if that happened? And how can I set myself up to be most successful if I
A
go
lot
any of
of
those
times
avenues?
people say, well, my kids are going to take over my business, but the kids aren't interested. And then what do? You haven't planned for that. You haven't set your business up to be saleable. So
Right.
we want to have it set up in the beginning so that you can make those decisions the way you want to, not the way you have to at that point.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, I'm amazed at the amount of people that are like, oh yeah, my kids are going to take it over, and then the kids don't want to take it over.
It don't
um,
work that hard.
yeah, no. So I'm going to put this on you. What is something that you want to tell small business owners or business owners, from a accounting and CPA point of view, that would be the best knowledge for them, if you just had to make a blanket statement?
Don't think you know all the answers, because you're missing out on tax deductions. That's why a professional can help you. We know all the tax deductions. And like I said before, you're already cheating yourself on mileage because you're not keeping track of it 100%. There are other things that we can help you find that will lower that tax deduction, that tax expense, and keep money in your pocket. We want to keep money in your pocket, and that's what it's all about. Yeah, you want to pay your government share. You want to be honest and legitimate, but you don't want to pay more than your fair share. So talk to a professional who can help you keep more of your money in your pocket.
That's a great statement that every business owner wants to hear. So I ask the same 3 questions of every podcast guest I have. So we're going to get into that now. The first one is, what is the most influential book that you've read in the last 6 months?
Honestly, I haven't read a book in the last 6 months. It's just been too crazy for me in my life. The most influential book I ever read was, and I can't even think of the name of it right now, was by Joseph Prince, and it was about grace, and it helped me not only give other people grace, but give myself grace. And I think we have to remember that we all deserve grace in life because we all make mistakes.
That is a very true statement. What is something that in the last 6 months you've had to say no to?
So many changes in the last 6 months. I think I've had to say no to some networking meetings that I really wanted to be part of because I have just been so busy with so many other things. I had to make something a priority.
I think time is the most common answer that I get to that question. And I like that you said choose your priorities, because that's the best way to, that's when you know you're making the right no choice. And you got to say yes to something else, right? So when you say yes to something, you're saying no to something else. And when you say no to something, you're saying yes to something else. And so, yeah, I mean, you have a business, you have a new marriage, you have a new home. So it sounds like you're saying yes to a lot of good things.
I believe so.
That's good. That's good. All right. My last question. If I were to give you a billboard and you can write whatever you wanted on the billboard and millions and millions and millions of people are going to see it, what would it say?
Don't be so hard on yourself. I think we all are harder on ourselves than on everybody else, and we take on more than we should and create more stress in our own lives.
I think that really shows your heart, and it goes along with your book too.
True.
Well, Mona, thank you so much for coming on here and talking about accounting and small businesses or businesses in general. I think people will find a lot of value in hearing that, and hopefully that if they're not reaching out to a professional, they reach out to you or anybody so that they can get the help that they deserve and need.
Thank you for having me. And I do hope that they will reach out to a professional, because all business owners can use help.
Without a doubt. Well, have a great afternoon. Thanks for being on the show.
Thanks. Have a good day.
Thank you for watching the Jared Bellmund Show. Be sure to hit subscribe, ring the bell for future notifications, and check out the description for more information.